Money Matters TV. My name is Kelly Stewart of The Positive Business, and I'm your host today. I'll be joined later by Susan Springsteen. She's president of H2O Connected. And before we talk with her, I'm joined by my co-host, John Mason, president and CEO of New Finance. Hi, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. So we are often together, and we start this part of our show talking about the world of finance and what's going on in the economy and the different markets. And I feel like we never run out of things to talk about.
Well, and it's been 3 months now since we've talked, and one can't believe how much has happened over that particular period of time and what's happening right now. It's just incredible.
So let's dive into it. Where do you want to start? What's bubbling to the surface for you today?
Well, that's a hard thing to identify, is where you want to start. One of the things that I'm watching so much now is the debt markets and what's happening in the debt markets, because since so much has been happening with respect to the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve pumping tons and tons of money into the financial markets and the financial system, so that the liquidity out there is just huge, and it's spreading everywhere except into the real economy. I mean, here we get a real picture of what I think has been building up over the last few years, in the sense that what the Federal Reserve does and what the federal government is doing is not going into the real economy and helping to increase the production of goods and services. Most of it, the money that's being pumped into the economy, is going into the financial sector. And as a consequence, we're just overflowing with funds there, but it's not getting into production of goods and services. It's not getting into employment.
Right. So that probably explains why we're seeing businesses shutter. I'm certain in our local communities, that would be a factor then for that, where we're seeing some of these small businesses that haven't been able to withstand the pandemic, the lockdown crisis, and also maybe they're not able to get access to these funds, the smaller mid-sized businesses, local shops.
That's correct, and it shows up in little bubbles here and there and the like. I mean, everybody's been talking about the stock market, and all the new highs have been hit. I mean, the NASDAQ stock index went 16 days in which it hit 13 new historical highs. Right. The S&P 500 had 14 days when it hit 12 historical new highs just recently, and so the money is there. The money is showing up in terms of we've got something now that's gained a lot of popularity called blank check corporations, that you get well-known people with well recognized and things like that. They're raising millions of dollars, and what are they raising millions of dollars for? Well, it's a blank check. They basically have that money to go out and purchase another company. Wow. So it's not going into production of goods and services. Mm-hmm. It's staying in that financial circuit.
And we've talked about this before. I know you've brought up, some great ideas around the fact that the metrics that we've used to really assess where the economy is may not be as a factor as much when we're talking about technology companies, because they operate so differently from this traditional product and service. Are you still seeing that playing out today?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you find the big movers in the stock market, of course, have been the tech sector. And so you have Apple and Microsoft and Amazon and Facebook and those that have really really gone to town as far as prices are concerned. But it's one of the things that's happening too, is that it's creating something now called zombie companies. And what's happening with the zombie companies is that they're not getting cash flow, and so as a consequence, with their debt coming due and other things like that, what have they been able to do? Well, they've been able to go out and raise money. I mean, even these that are not totally. I mean, a lot of them you've seen fail. J.R. Crew and Neiman Marcus and a lot of these others. But a lot of these companies have been able to get debt, and as a consequence, they've been able to extend their lives. And they're being named zombie companies because they've got so much debt and they're having so small a cash flow during these times that they're really dead, but still walking. So this is, and then you've got the federal government, and you got the federal government that at the end of this fiscal year, it's the debt outstanding is going to be 98% of gross domestic product. Now, the last time that we've been that high in that rate was at the end of World War II. And
where should the number be, John?
I think it should be around 20%. So you're getting up to 100%, and next year it's supposed to go up to something like 105, and in a couple of years it's supposed to be up in the 110s and so forth. And what you're talking now is that you're talking about a Pacific Coast island country that has not been able to live off of anything but debt. And all this is hanging out there. And the Fed is doing everything it can in order to keep the markets liquid so trading continue. Right. The real fear, and this is what hanging over all this and so forth, is that the liquidity crisis could evolve into a solvency crisis. And if you get into a solvency crisis, then you've got huge problems, because then you've got the defaults, you've got the closing of businesses, and this, we've got a big enough problem with Main Street and things like this, but we're talking about sizable companies here.
So this is going to be a great topic, I think, for you and I to pick up on our next show, and it's also makes this question that we have from our viewer Janet Waldron in Wayne even more apropos. What are some good and safe dividend returns from banks? So you just described all this fluctuation and changing rates. So how would you respond to Janet about that?
Well, the thing in Janet's question that really hits me is safe dividend returns. I am not a big fan of the banking industry right now. The four biggest banks, and the J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Citicorp. I mean, they've got so much of the assets of the banking system, and very frankly, they're going to have a whole lot more. This pandemic is forcing people to go more and more to internet tools and things like that. The big banks are more or less prepared for that, and they're going to capture more and more and more of the business. Unfortunately, the other 4,000 to 5,000 banks that are out there are going to have very, very severe problems. So in terms of what you might call a safe dividend return for the banks, I have problems with anything below the four largest banks in the country. I think we're going to see a tremendous drop in the number of banks over the next 5 years, and who's going to survive?
We don't know.
That's anybody's guess right now.
Well, John, I appreciate that.
The four largest will be alive, and some others.
Well, Janet, we hope that answers your question. And if any of our other viewers would like to send in a question to the show, here's how you can do that.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, MONEY, -matters, MATTERS, tv.com.
Welcome back. We are so excited to have our next guest on the show with you. Her name is Susan Springsteen, and she is the president of H2O Connected, LLC. And so with that, we'd like to welcome Susan to the show. And we have some great questions for her. I know we're going to have a fun conversation, and I'd love to start this off. Susan, tell us about you and what you're doing, because it's exciting.
Well, Kelly, I am really glad to be here. Actually, I used to be on Money Matters regularly years and years and years ago when I was in the investment business. So I spent 25 years in wealth management and investment banking, and was a regular guest and host of this show. So great to be back.
Welcome back.
Yes. And after being in the investment business for a while, I decided that I really wanted to make something tangible. And of course, you can't do that when you're managing investment portfolios. So I decided to look for a business to invest in that would actually make a tangible product I could hold in my hand. And I would, and then it would enable me to set the culture of the business, which you can do as an owner more than you can as an employee. And then I also thought I could have a greater impact on my community. So I looked around for a company to invest in, founded a product development company, and then that led me to H2O Connected, where I'm the president now.
Well, first of all, that's all music to my ears. I'm all about the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. So that's wonderful. And tell us, what did you find? What are you doing?
Well, I moved over. I met my business partner through church, and he was heading up the product development division of a manufacturing company. And both he and I are big Made in America mandate people. We love to have manufacturing in the United States. And so that was a big criteria when we wanted to form a company. And then we ended up, his company was going through some changes. So we ended up buying the contents of his office and starting a product development, manufacturing, and business incubation company that we incubated called Nth Solutions. And one of the projects that he wanted to bring to life was a line of water conservation and damage prevention products. And so that's what we focused on in the beginning. There are 350 million toilets in the United States and Canada. Who knew? They all run and overflow. So we wanted to, there was no solution. We wanted to solve it. So we went to work developing a solution, and then that led us to eventually spin off that division into H2O Connected.
That's awesome. So I know John's got a question, because that's a really fun fact, but also staggering statement. 350 million toilets, right? That's a lot.
Just in the US and Canada. If you include the whole globe, there's over 1 billion more outside the United States. I'm not sure how they get to that statistic, but that's what I've been able to find. So there's a lot, big market.
Right. So John's got, I know, I'm not even going to wait, John. Go ahead, jump in with your question.
Well, Susan, I just our little discussion before we started here was really intriguing, and I don't think people can realize what a tremendous problem, say, having a leaky toilet or something can do in terms of expenses. Could you kind of fill us in on that? Because to me, it just blew my mind.
Yeah, well, first of all, if you've got a toilet, sooner or later, it's going to leak, run, or overflow, running up your water bill. Or if you don't on public water, it could saturate your septic system. It could run your well dry. And if it overflows, it can cause property damage that takes tens of thousands of dollars to remedy. So toilets can be a big expense. And just to give you a few statistics, an undetected running toilet, we've quantified them as leaking at 4.5 to 5.5 gallons per minute. So that translates into 7,000 gallons or more per day. And a lot of these running toilets are undetected for hours, days, or if the homeowner's on vacation, it can be a week or more. So that, and that cost then at the average Pennsylvania rate of about $13 per 1,000 gallons for water and sewer, that can translate into $100 a day just from one running toilet. So if you get a high water bill, more likely than not, it's not a broken meter, it's a running toilet.
So Susan, break it down for us then. What does H2O Connected do as to address all of this?
H2O Connected developed and manufactures a line of products under the Leak Alerter brand name that can detect every type of water loss problem that can occur in a toilet. So, for instance, if you're a hotel owner or a apartment complex owner or manager, we now have a new device that we're rolling out into the marketplace that goes into the toilet that can wirelessly send a message to your maintenance personnel if the toilet is leaking or running or about to overflow. It also will tell you how many gallons per flush you're using. So it allows you to quickly make repairs and save water. So that's the new product. And we also have a product for homeowners as well.
And does it kind of operate under the same principle? You suspect you have a problem? Like, when would a homeowner start to use your product? Because, typically I'm the type of homeowner who thinks, well, if it's working, it's all good, right? But maybe not. Maybe it's on its way to not working so well.
Yeah, actually, most people have no idea that their toilets are wasting water. So we have a Leak Alerter 6000. It's sold on Amazon and through our website, leakalerter.com. That literally installs in seconds without tools. All you have to do is hang it on the wall of your toilet tank. The sensors go on the inside and the alert is on the outside. And when you flush the toilet, it will flash green if your toilet is functioning properly, and it will flash red and beep during the flush cycle if there's a problem. And depending on how it flashes and beeps, it'll tell you exactly what the problem is. Is the toilet going to run? Is the flapper need to be replaced? Is the fill valve not functioning properly? So you can make a really efficient repair instead of guessing. And then the property management, the wireless device gives the property manager all the same information wirelessly. And then there's a dashboard so that they can see all the water, both intended by flush or unintended by leak, running toilet overflow, how they're using water.
Right. That's amazing. John, I'm thinking about our conversation. Technology is just everywhere. We have about marketing technology and fintech and water tech. And just to think that you could have a dashboard to monitor all of this, of course, right? It makes a lot of sense today. So kudos to you for
it's really important for property managers, because as they can save in their water costs, it increases their net operating income. And their properties are valued based on a formula that ties to net operating income. So if they can, and there, other than our products, there really isn't any other way to cost effectively and reliably manage your water costs from the biggest leaker in your building, which is the toilet. So if we can help property managers increase their net operating income, we can help them raise the value of their properties.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, Susan, you talk about location, and where are you located, and what are your plans in terms of developing your operation?
Well, this is really an exciting story. We are located in Coatesville, which is a qualified opportunity zone. When we decided to divest H2O Connected from End Solutions, we knew that in order to scale the sales of the Leak Alerter Pro, the wireless device, we were going to need to raise money to fund that scale. So we wanted to give our investors every benefit that we could. So we looked at the opportunity zone legislation, which is part of the 2017 Tax Act, that says if you locate a business or you renovate real estate in certain zones throughout the country, you can get tax benefits that are really meaningfully dropped to your bottom line. So we went looking for where was the qualified opportunity zone in Chester County, and it turns out it's in Coatesville. So I went and explored Coatesville, and I found a town that has great history, has great buildings, has a very business-friendly city government. And then what really sold me on it was the people. The people in Coatesville are really pretty phenomenal. So we started our initial office is in Coatesville now, and then we teamed up with a qualified opportunity zone real estate developer to renovate a 1902 formerly vacant Luke and Steel office building into our new headquarters, and we're adding a 20,000 square foot engineering lab and manufacturing facility behind it. So both End Solutions, H2O Connected, and a couple of other like-minded businesses will be moving out there as soon as it's finished at the end of the year. So we have plenty of room for expansion. We have plenty of room for our growing manufacturing. We can hire local workers, which really excites us. And we can be part of this really exciting revitalization of Coatesville.
That's absolutely wonderful. Wonderful. I have a question for you. What in this process, so you've had this background in finance, of course you were on Money Matters, which is awesome. What's been some of the most surprising things that you've learned, either, about what you're doing now, whether that is water in general, manufacturing, what's kind of really struck you in a way that you just didn't anticipate as you've been on this journey?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think on the negative side, I've learned just how many ways Murphy's Law can visit you. When you start a business, and it's a capital intensive business, you're making you've got to buy molds, and there's a development process, and we're dealing with electronics and enterprise software. And I mean, you can't think of everything. So you have to have a really good team, which we do. We have a lot of geniuses in-house, and we all work well together, even in the trenches, even under stress. And I think on the positive side, I love what we've created. I love the fact that we're bringing jobs to a town that really people are dying, they really want to work. Right. And so we're giving them that opportunity. And I love the fact that this business can take entry-level jobs, so people either returning citizens or unemployed, they can come in as an entry-level worker for a lower skilled job, and then we can stair step them to higher and higher skilled jobs that pay more and more. So we can actually grow folks, and they want to work hard to where they can then get to a point where they have financial independence, they can buy their own homes, they can create a life for themselves. And I think that that's something that's just been really, really rewarding that I didn't envision when I started this journey.
That's great. I was going to ask you, what type of skill set does someone need to bring, or is that something that you do all the training with them, if they're coming in at entry level?
We train most on the job. I mean, our view is that we're not as concerned about what happened to you before you walked in the door. Like so we're fine if you've made some mistakes in your past. Sure. Awesome. But we can teach somebody, it has some pretty basic skills for the legal editor. There's cutting, there's pairing the sensors, there's learning to solder, and then it can go up to being an installer, logistics, warehouse management, a technician, learning to read data. So there actually can stair step into some highly skilled jobs. Some are going to have sales capability, administrative capability. And what's great about taking an early stage company into an opportunity zone is those companies are going to grow. So they're going to have bigger and bigger and bigger need for employees. And in the indirect jobs created are huge. One manufacturing job creates 7 indirect jobs in the community. Right. So it's really, and we train on the job. So if somebody really is excited to work with us and they play nice in the sandbox, we are all about helping them grow their skill set into wherever they want to go.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. John, personal question.
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of startup companies and young entrepreneurs and innovators and things like that. And one of the things that is the hardest thing in the world for some people to do is move from a large, more bureaucratic type of organization into one where you're the only one there. And as a consequence, it may turn in from a 40 or a 60-hour-a-week job to what I would describe as a job that's 24/7. How did you find that transition, Susan?
Well, I think being in the investment business the way I was a good learning environment, because when you're a wealth manager, I had a wealth management practice with a partner there, but you really do create your own clients. It's like having your own business on someone else's capital. So you get this, and we're paid according to what we produce. So already it sort of hones that entrepreneurial spirit, and you realize that you're not going to work a 9-to-5 job. then when I got into having my own business, and then I was responsible for signing the front of the paychecks. You're right. You quickly learn that, there are no set days, but I guess that's part of my personality. It just didn't seem to be that big of a problem for me. And I work long days. I work weekends. So, but it's all worth it because of what we're creating.
So, Susan, we have just about 2.5 minutes left. And in that time, since you were talking about what you're creating, tell us about what's on deck. What are your goals for the next year or two?
Well, certainly launching the Leak Alerter Pro into the marketplace and grabbing that market share in the hospitality, multifamily, student housing, and senior housing markets. So I think then we can really have a meaningful impact on water waste and water cost. And then also moving into the new facility and expanding that out. We have on board eventually we'll have a wireless version for homeowners that will be able to hook into their own wireless gateway. We've been talking to some folks who are the household names in that space about partnering with them. So those three things, and then growing the Leak Alerter 6000, which is the homeowner version, growing that name recognition nationally. So I think that'll keep us pretty busy for a while.
That should keep you very busy. And we've really enjoyed having you on the show. I mean, our water is such a vital, precious resource for all of us. So, to find ways to help us manage that and control that waste, I think is absolutely wonderful. So thank you for what you're doing. John Mason, the eternal optimist. Thank you so much for enlightening us today.
It's been a pleasure, Kelly, and it's been a pleasure to meet you, Susan, and to hear what you're doing. Good luck to you.
This was a lot of fun. Have me back.
Absolutely. Well, we've really enjoyed having you here. Look forward to your keeping tabs on your progress. John, any a final note to anyone before we lend out in 30 seconds?
Oh, just keep optimistic.
There you go. All right. So then that kind of pairs with me, as you know.
I've never lost a game in my life.
That's right. So until we are able to be on the show again, everyone, please be well and expect great things from everything you do. On our next show, we have biotech consultant, Dr. Stephen Kahn. Please join us for that.